Hello, law students and legal practitioners. Today, we will analyze the case of Ututalum versus Commission on Elections, GR number 84843-44, decided by the Supreme Court on January 22, 1990. Let's begin. Here are the legal doctrines of the case. In a pre-proclamation controversy, only defects apparent on the face of the election returns themselves may justify their exclusion from the canvass. A claim that election returns are obviously manufactured must be demonstrable prima facie from the returns alone, such as when the number of votes credited greatly exceeds what could have been legally cast based on the existing voters list at the time of election. The padding or annulment of a voters list, even if subsequently established and judicially affirmed, is not a proper ground for a pre-proclamation controversy, because it does not appear on the face of the election returns and concerns matters aliunde the canvass process. Such irregularities constitute grounds for an election protest, not for exclusion of returns during canvass. The subsequent annulment of a voters list cannot retroactively nullify a completed election, absent prior annulment of the list before the holding of elections. Doing so would violate due process and would result in the disenfranchisement of lawful voters. Here are the relevant facts of the case. Petitioner Nur Hussein A. Ututalum and respondent Arden S. Ani were congressional candidates in the May 30, 1987 elections for the 2nd District of Sulu. The election returns from the municipality of COMELEC showed that Ani obtained 35,581 votes, while Ututalum garnered only 482 votes, out of 39,801 registered voters. According to petitioner, if the COMELEC returns were excluded, he would lead by 5,301 votes. During the canvass on June 4, 1987, petitioner filed written objections seeking exclusion of the COMELEC returns, alleging they were obviously manufactured due to an alleged excess of voters supposedly impossible given the number of precincts. The Provincial Board of Canvassers dismissed the objections for being out of time and for improper grounds under Section 243 of the Omnibus Election Code. Petitioner thereafter filed several petitions before the COMELEC, including a petition for declaration of failure of elections and later for annulment of Ani's proclamation. While these petitions were pending, Ani was proclaimed, took his oath of office, and assumed his congressional duties. In a separate proceeding initiated by another candidate, Lupe Long, the COMELEC annulled the COMELEC voters list due to massive irregularities. Petitioner sought to rely on this later annulment to invalidate the congressional election returns from COMELEC. The COMELEC rejected petitioner's argument and advised him to file an election protest instead. Issue 1. Whether election returns based on a subsequently annulled voters list may be excluded through a pre-proclamation controversy. No, such exclusion is not proper in a pre-proclamation case. Section 243 of the Omnibus Election Code strictly limits pre-proclamation issues to matters affecting the election returns themselves. The annulment or padding of the voters list concerns the preparation of election documents prior to voting, not the canvass of returns. The COMELEC voters list was valid and existing at the time of the May 30, 1987 elections. Its later annulment in a separate case cannot retroactively nullify the election returns without violating due process and disenfranchising valid voters. Issue 2. Whether the COMELEC election returns were obviously manufactured and thus excludable. No, the returns were not prima facie manufactured. For returns to be considered obviously manufactured, the defect must be apparent on their face, such as a clear excess of votes impossible under the existing registry at election time, as in Legumbe versus COMELEC. The COMELEC returns showed 36,000 actual voters out of 39,801 registered voters, which did not prima facie demonstrate fabrication. Any anomaly stemmed from the registry list, not the returns themselves. Issue 3. Whether COMELEC committed grave abuse of discretion in denying petitioners' petitions. No, COMELEC acted within its jurisdiction. Irregularities such as padded voter lists, fraud, or terrorism are proper subjects of an election protest, not pre-proclamation proceedings. COMELEC correctly refused to exclude the COMELEC returns and properly advised petitioner to seek relief through an election protest. Issue 4. Whether the pre-proclamation controversy remained viable after respondent's proclamation and assumption of office. No, the controversy became moot and academic. Upon proclamation and assumption of office, jurisdiction over election contests involving members of Congress shifts to the House of Representatives Electoral Tribunal, HRET. Since respondent Annie had already assumed office, petitioner's exclusive remedy was an election protest before the HRET. Thank you for listening and happy learning. Please don't forget to subscribe to the Legal Shepherd PH YouTube channel and click the notification bell to stay updated on newly uploaded cases and jurisprudence. See you again for our next case discussions.